Barbarians, it is finally here. The servers are going live today, and I have the ultimate leveling guide for you. Because the servers aren't live yet, we're going to hop over into Mobalytics. I'll show you the breakdown of the build, how to use the planner, and then what you're going to need in order to get yourself to level 60 and start your end game journey this season. With my build guides this season, now I have one for every class, but we're going over the Barbarian today. I have broken everything down into level 1 to 25, level 26 to 40, and then level 41 to 60. These are going to progressively get more and more detailed as you go through the ranks. So your very first one will only have aspects that you can get in dungeons. Now in each one of them, I have listed out where the dungeons are, what the names are. You can actually go into the game. You're going to bring up your Codex of Power. Then you're going to search for whatever you wanted to find. Now, because I have already discovered everything in the season, this is not going to show up for me as undiscovered. But if I come down to one of the ones that I haven't found yet, so for example here, this one says that it's in the Core Valar Ramparts. If I click on this one, this is going to pull up an automatic pin for me. So now I know that I can go all the way over here, and that's going to be how you find the aspects. As you're working through this, you can go back to your Codex of Power, you can use the planner, you can type in whichever either aspect of Might or Dark Ravine, and then that will let you search for that so you know exactly where to go to get it. In the first two sections of the planner, none of the aspects will be anything that can randomly drop. Sometimes it's very hard to get those drops. You can go all the way to level 60 and not find a specific aspect. So I made it so that it's going to be very easy to get these aspects. It is not 100% mandatory to go to every single one of these dungeons and do it. You will start getting drops. If you want to set your character up early, then you can go to all of them, you can get them as you go, and you can level through doing these dungeons. That's just going to be an option for you, but I wanted to have them listed out for you for which ones we're going to be able to get from a dungeon. And then if you do happen to find something that drops, these are going to be a list of all of the aspects that can drop. So if you do find them, you can skip to the very end of the planner. So you just come right up here to this one, this little tab and this variant here, and then that's going to have all of the aspects, and then where you can put each of these that have dropped for you. We're going to swap over to the very first variant. We'll talk about the skills, the aspects, the seasonal powers, and everything that you're going to need to know to get this up and running. So we'll start with the gear. If you come right down here and you go over to gear stats, in the first variant of the planner, where you have your 1 to 25, you're only going to have a very, very small amount of gear stats that you're going to look for. You're going to look for fury per second on your helmet, on your chest piece, and also on your boots. That's going to make your quality of life go through the roof. Having those fury per second on each of those pieces makes a big difference in how the gameplay goes. Then when you get to level 10, and I have this written out at the top here, you're going to want to go back to town. You can craft your very first elixir, and then you're going to want to temper. And I know that tempering sounds like it's something that you should wait on, but it's really not. With all of the new whispers that we're going to have to do for the seasonal quest line and also for the seasonal reputation, we're going to be getting a lot of materials. You're going to get a lot of gear. Salvage all of your gear. You can get all of the crafting materials that you're going to need from the whispers and from all of the gear in the new zone. Now, what you're going to temper is you're going to temper Elemental Surge. At a very low level, and all the way up probably into your mid-30s, this is going to still be a really big source of damage. We can put it on 4 different weapons. What it's going to do is going to add a chance to deal additional damage. Now, when you can put this on at level 10, you're going to be doing about anywhere from 5 to 10 damage at the most. These, I believe, at starting can go up to 250-ish. You put them on a 200 weapon, that doubles. It's way more damage than you're going to be doing at that level, and you will automatically have this temper. So when you're going through the very first stages, make sure that this is a temper that you put on, and you put on as often as your materials will allow you to. For the aspects, we're going to be running Disobedience. This is going to give you additional armor as you attack. We're going to be running the aspect of Might. What this is going to do is when you use a basic attack, which is going to be Lunging Strike, it's going to give you damage reduction. We're going to have Expectant on our gloves, attacking with a basic skill, which is going to be Lunging Strike. Your next Whirlwind is going to do additional damage if it's cast within 5 seconds. Then Volcathos. This one you probably can get at a later level because we will be able to spawn earthquakes through our tech rune. And that actually drops very, very often. I did a couple level testing before we hopped into the season with the Barbarian, and I got tech a lot. So you'll be able to get earthquakes. So Volcathos will give you increased damage to your earthquakes, even if you don't use leap. Then we're going to have Ghostwalker. This gives you additional movement speed when you become unstoppable through Rallying Cry. We're also going to have Edge Masters here. Edge Masters is going to give us additional damage based on how much primary resources we have at the time that we cast our skills. We're going to be running Dire Whirlwind. As you channel Whirlwind, you're going to get increased critical strike chance from this aspect here. We're going to be running Intercom. We won't be standing still because we're going to be using Whirlwind. However, we still are going to get a base increase to our damage if we're going to be using Intercom. So running this is going to boost our damage no matter what. We're going to be running Ancestral Echoes. On a lucky hit chance, damaging an enemy with Whirlwind has a chance to summon your Ancients. This is just going to be a little bit of boost to your damage as you're going through in your Whirlwinding. We're going to be running Umbral. This is going to give you back your primary resources whenever you crowd control an enemy. We're going to be running Slacking. On a lucky hit chance, you have up to a 65% chance to gain 20 Fury when a core skill deals direct damage to at least one bleeding enemy. Your maximum Fury is going to be increased by up to 25. Vocalize Empowerment. Your shout skills will generate primary resources per second while they're active. So we get additional resources here. The whole focus of this guide is to make sure that you have enough Fury generation in the very beginning of the game, because that's when it's the hardest to do. How I set up the skill tree. I was very particular about how we set this up, because when you go through, there is a leveling path that you can do. Each variant is going to have exactly the same skill tree. It doesn't change, but you can follow along with where you're at. If you are brand new to Diablo and this is your very first season and you do not have your Renown done, then all you're going to do is start at level 2. You start putting in Lunging Strike, Enhanced Lunging Strike, Whirlwind, and you just follow the list down. If you have completed all your Renown and you have the expansion pack, you're going to have 12 skill points. So you're going to skip all the way down to here after you put in all of your points. So you just follow it all the way down. This will be your level 2 now. So as you go down the list, you just follow along with this leveling path right here. In order to activate it, you just click on the little button right up here, and that will bring up your leveling path for you. We're going to be running Lunging Strike. This is going to help close the distance between you and the enemies at first. It makes movement speed a little bit easier as you find packs of enemies. You can teleport to them because this lunges at them. Then we're going to be going into Whirlwind. So we're only going to put 1 point into Whirlwind. We're going to go into Enhanced Whirlwind, and then all the way through Furious Whirlwind. We're going to make sure that we have Whirlwind set to a slashing weapon, so either dual wield or your two-handed weapon, preferably dual wield. As we get further down, you'll see exactly why. We're going to put 1 point into Pressure Point. This will give us a little bit of vulnerable damage when we're using Whirlwind. As we go down, I'm going to just go right down through the list of skills, follow along with the leveling path so that you can see exactly what the order is you put them in, but I'm just going to cover each one as we get to it. For Ground Stomp, we're going to be maxing out Ground Stomp in order to deal the most damage that we possibly can. Then we're going to go into Enhanced Ground Stomp. This is going to be another way that we can generate Fury. We're also going to stun enemies, which is our crowd control, for 2 seconds. Then Tactical Ground Stomp. Ground Stomp is now a brawling skill. That's going to play into our skills later, and it deals 900% increased damage. It also applies Vulnerable, so another source of vulnerable damage. For more life, we're going to be taking Imposing Presence, and then for damage reduction, we're going to be taking Martial Vigor. 1 point into Rallying Cry. We're going to go all the way down through Tactical Rallying Cry. Every time that we cast Rallying Cry, we gain 20 Fury, and then we're going to get increased resource generation here. Moving down, we're going to be going into Warcry, all the way down through Power Warcry. This is going to give us additional bonus damage to Warcry itself. Because we're a little slow in the very beginning of the game, we're also going to take some movement speed here for swiftness. 3 points into Moving Voice. This is going to give us additional increased duration on our shouts. And then 1 point into Raid Leader for a little bit of passive healing. Later on down the skill tree, and you'll get to see when we do it, but it's in the final variant of this build. You're going to drop Lunging Strike, and then you're going to put points into Leap. Leap will be additional sources of Earthquake through Bull Kathos. So we're going to go Leap, and then we're going to go all the way down through Power Leap. This will give us an additional source of Fury generation every single time that we leap. If it damages at least one enemy, we gain 40 Fury. 1 point into Aggressive Resistance. If you feel squishy, you can always put more points into here. This is going to give us damage reduction while berserking. We're also going to get Battle Fervor. When a brawling skill damages at least one enemy, you're going to gain berserking for 3 seconds. Now, we're going to be taking Tactical Ground Stomp. Tactical Ground Stomp converts this into a brawling skill. So now Ground Stomp is a brawling skill. Because we're taking Battle Fervor, it's going to count as a brawling skill and give us additional berserking for 3 seconds. We're also going to be taking Prolific Fury. While berserking, your fury generation is going to be increased by 18%. Again, just increasing the amount of fury that we can generate at low levels. We're going to go Pit Fighter. That's going to give us some damage reduction and some additional damage to close enemies. We're going to go all the way down through Counteroffensive. While we have fortified more than 50% of our maximum life, we're going to deal increased damage. We're going to be coming down here to Duelist. This is why you want to run Whirlwind as a dual wield setup. You're going to get increased attack speed while using a one-handed weapon. So when you run the dual wield set to our Whirlwind, that's what is going to be the best option here. Then we're going to be running Heavy Hitter. Your ultimate skills, Earthquakes, and Dust Devils are going to deal up to 45% increased damage. We're going to run Wallop. Your skills using a bludgeoning weapon are going to deal additional damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable. We're going to do both with Ground Stomp. We're going to have to run a sword and a mace as a one-handed weapon so that we can take advantage of both this and the slashing weapons. We're going to put 1 point into Invigorating Fury for some more healing, and then we're going to max out Wrath the Berserker. At rank 5, we are now gaining additional bonuses to our ultimate skills. So Wrath of the Berserker is going to pull enemies in instead of knocking them back, and it's going to deal damage to them. We're going to go all the way down through Unconstrained. This is going to be the key passive that we're going to choose for this now. The Berserking damage bonus is going to be increased to 60%. While you're below 65% life, you're always berserking, and you're going to gain 30% physical damage reduction. So those are the skills. We're going to scroll down here, and you're going to come to the rune. Now, I only picked basic runes because we're only going to be doing a leveling guide. We won't have any legendary, won't have any of the best runes that are out there. So we're going to be running Yaks every single time that you use a potion, which leveling, you do use a lot of potions, and then Tech, as long as you can find this. This is going to spawn your Earthquakes. Then we're also going to be running Kur or Sir, however you want to pronounce it. After you cast 5 skills, you're going to get 300 offering, and then you're going to have a 3-second cooldown on that. That is going to give you primary resources back. We're going to skip down past the Witch Powers to look at the Occult Gems. Now, these are going to be gained as you move through the game. So if you don't have them right away, or you don't have these specific Occult Gems or your Witch Powers right away, that's okay. Socket in whatever you have and whatever you can get. Hungering Void. While you have an aura active, pull the nearby enemies towards you every 8 seconds. We're also going to be running Wicked Pack. Your non-unique Eldritch Witch Powers gain 25% potency. Killing Wind. While there are 3 or more Eldritch Powers slotted, gain 25% movement speed and 15% critical strike chance. Now, critical strike chance is very low at the very beginning of the game, so this will be a big boost to your critical strike chance. How this works, you take all of these here, so we need 3 or more Eldritch Witch Powers. If you look at our Witch Powers here, we have 1, 2, 3 of them socketed in. And then when we look at our Wicked Pack here, your non-unique Eldritch Powers gain more potency. So that's all of these here. These are the non-unique ones. This is your unique one. And then we're going to be looking at the Hungering Void. While you have an aura active, we have the Aura of Lament. We're going to be pulling in enemies every 8 seconds. You have Doom Orb. This is going to be from the seasonal reputation rewards. So it's going to be important to do your whispers, so make sure that's something that you put a priority on. This orbits around you and does a lot of damage. Aura of Lament. When you first strike an enemy, it is afflicted with an aura. So there's going to be a glow around you. When you first strike them, they're going to be afflicted with an aura. The aura is going to slow that and all others nearby. For each enemy inside the Aura of Lament, you're going to gain 3 primary resources each second. If the initial enemy dies, Aura of Lament is passed on to another enemy, retaining the duration. Lasts 30 seconds. Only 1 enemy may be affected at a time. May occur only once every 30 seconds. At rank 15, you may now apply Aura Lament to 2 enemies. So as you level up all of these witch powers, you can gain additional bonuses for it. So when you hit an enemy, it's going to put an aura on them. You'll see the aura around it. For every enemy inside that aura, you're going to get back primary resources. When that enemy dies, it's going to pass that aura along as long as there's enemies around you. For Wave of Woe, release a Wave of Woe, damaging an enemy with your skills. Wave of Woe is going to deal damage over time, and it's going to echo that damage to all the other nearby enemies of the same type. When you hit rank 5, the damage is going to be increased by 15% for each time the damage is echoed, and it is guaranteed to echo at least 5 times. If you're fighting a boss, it's going to echo the boss 5 times. Shaken Soul. This is going to be your source of vulnerable damage. Your Eldritch effects are going to apply vulnerable damage to enemies for 9 seconds. At rank 10, damage from growth and decay and your psyche powers are going to also apply vulnerable damage. We're going to be running Firebat Servants. A deadly swarm of fire bats is going to come down every 2 seconds. It's going to deal fire damage. That's going to be applying vulnerable damage to everybody. At rank 6, enemies are now stunned for 3 seconds, more crowd control, after being hit 5 times by your fire bats. Hex of Whispers, dealing damage to an enemy afflicts them with a Hex of Whispers that deals shadow damage the next time damage is dealt. Afterwards, the Hex of Whispers will jump to another enemy up to a maximum of 6 times. Hex of Whispers can only be applied once every 5 seconds. At rank 7, after bouncing onto 6 enemies, the Hex will bounce back to you, granting Fortify for 15% of your maximum life and removing all crowd control and negative status effects. So it's basically going to be a source of Unstoppable and Fortify that we're going to be getting here. The only other part of this guide that we're going to have to talk about is going through your final stages of your aspects here. So for the aspect, what's going to be changing, you're going to be adding on Incendiary Fissures, Fierce Winds, Dust Devil Aspects, Earthquake, Encroaching Wrath, Anger Management, Fortress, and then Bolcathos is going to swap to the Helmet. So this is going to be the changes that you're going to make when you get to the very end of the game. If you find any of these, put them on right away. The reason that we're going to be running Incendiary, your Earthquakes are going to deal up to 60% increased damage, and their damage is going to be converted into fire damage. This is going to be huge damage for your Earthquakes. We're going to be spawning Dust Devils, and the Dust Devils, especially early on, do a ton of damage. So every time that you use your shouts, your Dust Devils are going to cast. So that's going to create 3 Dust Devils. Dust Devil Aspect here, every time that we Whirlwind, and as we channel Whirlwind, it's going to leave behind more Dust Devils. The Earthquakes Aspect, this is going to be used for Ground Stomp. Ground Stomp is going to create an Earthquake. So that Earthquake is also going to give us additional increased damage, and your Earthquakes are going to do more damage using this aspect here. Encroaching Wrath. After spending Fury, your next Weapon Mastery or Brawling skill, which will be Ground Stomp, within 8 seconds is going to deal increased damage. Anger Management. When above 55% Fury, you're going to have Berserking all the time. You're going to lose 2 Fury per second, but if we're running all of your Fury per second on your gear, this won't matter at all. Then we're going to be running Fortress. For every 10% of your life missing, you're going to gain additional damage reduction. So this is going to be a source of staying alive as you level up. For a complete breakdown of the leveling process, I have a leveling walkthrough document here. What this is going to look like is this right here. This will have all of the build guides for all of the other classes if you wanted to find it. It's going to have a breakdown of where to go, what to do, what levels to put things on, a bunch of different interactive maps and guides for you in order to get through your whole entire leveling process, what gear checks are, and all of this great information for you. So make sure you take advantage of it. When you hit level 60, there's a little quick how-to on how to do it, and I will have this guide updated for level 60 in Season 7. That's all I got for you today. I'm super excited to hop into this game with everybody and play some Barbarian. I'm going to be streaming it live as soon as the servers come up. So if you want to stop by and see what it's like from my perspective, stop by, say hi, theorycraft with me. Catch you on the clip side.